Hey everyone, welcome to the show, and thanks guys for doing it yesterday without me. I should be back next couple days. Should be pretty good. I appreciate it. While we're going through this, we got lots of stuff to talk about today. We got lots of great fun things to talk about. But first, we're going to go to Russ, who's got something before the show that's not so much fun, but we'll talk about it.
Well, it's baseball, X. But
yeah,
it will involve you, so don't go anywhere.
It will involve me. I'm not going anywhere.
No, because the function of this is baseball. MLB has sold 10 games this year to Facebook.
Oh.
So they can put it on like Facebook Watch.
Great timing.
Yes. So here's the thing. So the first one will be Wednesday, Mets versus Phillies. Noah Syndergaard, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Pretty much an internet sensation too, so that it's probably no surprise that the timing works out that way. And the catch-all for this is if you have the MLB package, you can't watch it. If you have SNY, who the Mets are on, you can't watch it. If you have Comcast, who the Phillies are on, you can't watch it. It is just Facebook. And so I did a Twitter poll because
when will they learn? When will they learn?
But you can get it in Russia.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I did a Twitter poll and just asked, are you mad? Are you not mad? Or do you not care? Right. So 61% don't care, which is the fans that aren't baseball fans. And I respect that.
Generally the reaction to most of baseball. Yes.
Right. But the ones that care, 29% do care. And 10% don't. So you figure if you break that down, MLB is making a mistake here because the hardcore fans, which is, again, MLB is just a couple of pegs ahead of, the NHL. The hardcore fans want to be at home, want to be able to watch the game the way they want to watch the game. MLB sells out to Facebook here. And so I did do a little digging, Mike. It looks like Cliff Floyd, who does the Blue Jays games, will be one of the hosts. That's fine.
Yeah, he's pretty good, actually.
He's pretty good. But the idea is this will turn off a lot of fans, and it's a lot of day games. And so that's another thing where they're selling out the day games to this because I think what they're thinking is well, nobody's home anyhow.
Right, you're at work, right? And
but that's not true anymore because a lot of people telecommute.
And a lot of people work at home. Yeah. And even, I mean, if you're at work, you can't watch a game anyway. I mean, it's not.
Right. And if if you know anything about baseball, most of these probably be getaway days, Ross, like games on Wednesday or Thursday in the afternoon.
They are Wednesday and Thursday games, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have to pay for these games?
No.
But the problem is that they want, based on what Ross was saying, they want exclusivity. It's not being broadcast anywhere else, so it's funneling everybody to Facebook.
Right.
And this is sort of like what the NFL did when it was NFL.com. The only problem was not everybody had NFL.com, so you're sort of cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's not the right thing to do. I don't get it.
The cost could be getting data mined.
Yeah. Well, no, that's for sure. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, that I have said, and you guys might know, I mean, I've said this from the beginning, being an internet person and myself, provider of internet things, that anything that is free, the person who is reading it is the product. I mean, that's how it works. That's what's, so don't think that anything's ever free. And that can mean like just, whether you're being advertised to or whatever. But if it's free, you are the product. So nothing is, nothing's free. Yeah, so
just to forewarn somebody, if you get an invitation to follow me on Messenger and it says my address is in Magnitogorsk or Lagos, Nigeria, it's not me.
Well, or you get a Farmville invite from me. It's not me because I hate that. You know what game?
Oh yeah, no, there's a whole bunch. I mean, it's a whole other level of scamming and everything like that. But this is like, this. Facebook is a very it's a whole huge topic for me because it's a whole. I mean, we've tried like a lot of people like, and if Kevin was on here, Kevin Allen, he would say to us flat out, the importance of Facebook to USA Today is vital. I mean, and we have a Facebook page on HockeyBuzz, and we've tried to get it going, and it has gotten better and better over the years, and Facebook is vital to news organizations, and I was slow getting on Facebook, fast getting on Twitter, slow getting on Facebook. But that's, Facebook's probably more important, and it's really important to everybody as far as there are still many, many people who are addicted, and not just because we've seen stuff now, it doesn't mean it's going to change. I mean, this is just because we've seen stuff with Facebook mining people, very few people are actually going to.
Do we worry because MLB did this that the NHL will follow suit?
Oh, I think they will. I mean, well, MLB and the NHL are tied at the hip when it comes to streaming stuff, so that they are definitely going to follow suit.
Don't you think this would be a mistake for the NHL because of their hardcore audience and the
So-
way that fans are sort of fanatical about the game? Like, it's again, there's going to be a lot of fans that, because of the data mining, a lot of people have gotten off Facebook. I don't think it's, you know, as big.
No, a lot of people have. Yeah, I mean, not as many people as I think are as is being reported, but I think a lot of people have. And also, you shouldn't have to be on Facebook to watch a game. Especially, my issue here is if you're paying for like the Center Ice package.
Yeah.
Then and they're taking this off the Center Ice package now. I mean, you would have a legitimate gripe, and you can sit there and say, you know, I'm told these games are going to be on. I'm told these.
Well, I have a problem with the NHL, and apparently, if you have DirecTV, this is not the case.
There's always that kind of thing too, and that makes me insane.
Right,
like the Sportsnet stuff up in Canada, where you can watch home games on the NHL Center Ice package if you have Sportsnet. At least in Western Canada, so it's kind of crazy.
I'll give you a perfect example, and this might be the limitation of my cable company, but. The NHL Center Ice package has a limit of like 14 channels. So sometimes I will get, say Toronto versus Nashville, and I won't get the Toronto broadcast. I'll only get the Fox Sports Tennessee broadcast, which is bearable. It's not, Pete Weber's on the radio. If it was Pete Weber, I wouldn't have any problem with it. But I want to listen to the Toronto perspective and not the Nashville perspective. So now the thing is the game of the day on Sunday was Tampa-Nashville. And the channels that are usually used for the NHL Center Ice package are occupied now by Major League Baseball extra innings. So there's a crossover.
Yeah.
I had to watch Tampa versus Nashville, basically a battle for the President's Trophy on standard def because all the high def channels were taken up.
Yeah.
Then, it's absolutely ridiculous. And also, in Toronto yesterday, I wanted to check a replay on something. I went to Game Center Live, and it was blacked out because because I'm in Toronto, and it's using the IP or the location of where I am, and it's saying you can't watch the game. And like, you're paying for it, so why can't you watch it?
Like pretty soon, there's going to be like a Center Ice preferred. Like this is what's going to happen, right, Ek?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's very. I mean, that's very possible. I mean, you have to understand there's a whole lot of people involved in this thing, and I have had this fight, and every time Bill Daly sees me, I know he gets pissed off to see me just because he knows I'm going to bring up this like home game thing on Center Ice.
What the fans talk about, like Bill Daly doesn't know what the fans are saying about.
Oh, he does. No, he does. He totally does.
Not to that degree. I don't think he has.
I think he does. I think the issue is, okay, so you have, like, for example, in Philadelphia, if you're a Flyers fan, just bring this up because I know this area and I know what we have here. We have Comcast Sportsnet app, which enables us to which enables you to watch the home games for free, and actually all the Flyers games for free on the Comcast Sportsnet app. So therefore, this is why we haven't seen it. We weren't seeing it before on the NHL Game Center, because they would have had to taken it away from Game Center and put it on the Comcast Sportsnet app. So once the Comcast Sportsnet app came out, I really didn't care about the Game Center things being blacked out because it doesn't really matter, or my home team or whatever. It doesn't really affect me. But not every place has yet gotten to that point. So there's a lot of cities that still don't have a way to watch the home game, or watch a game that you're paying for, or have a game being blacked out. But then you get to the Comcast Sportsnet app, and sometimes that can be blacked out depending on where you are. I ran into this situation when I was in Tampa last week, visiting in-laws, and I wanted to watch a game that is, that I have Comcast cable at home. I get this, so I go to the Comcast Sportsnet app. Now I'm suddenly not in my home area, so I can't watch the game now. Now I should be able to watch on Center Ice at that point, right? So I go to Center Ice and I could watch it there, and that was fine. But the situation is, it's a cluster because it's very confusing to people. People get really pissed off about it. And if Facebook wants to do this and take it, what I would do if I was running this thing, which I'm not, obviously, but I would have it on Facebook. Go ahead, put it on Facebook. Do something special with it on Facebook. You know, where there's, you know, some kind of, whether it's a chat room that's running on the side or a special kind of like where you can interact with your Facebook friends.
Functionality that you can't get otherwise.
Right. And do that. And don't take it away from Center Ice, but just put it on Center Ice as well, but make it on Facebook, make it something interesting on Facebook. Therefore,
like
you have
game. Somehow it's an enhanced game.
Right. Well, a reason that you'd want to go to Facebook for something more, but by taking it away from Center Ice, you are forcing people to be a part of Facebook, which is something that's not fair.
Right.
You know, that's where they make these mistakes.
And I also have a problem, like in the sense that, you know, Buffalo's a border town, and I grew up being able to watch Canadian TV, watch Hockey Night in Canada on the antenna, watch CHCH from Hamilton. That's how I got a lot of my Leaf games when I was young. Now we don't get Sportsnet, we don't get TSN because they're Canadian cable companies, and they don't cross over into the US. And online, everything, like say TSN does their insider trading, or TSN does things that are streaming video, they're geo-blocked because I'm in the US and they're in Canada.
Yeah.
Now, Sportsnet ran something a couple weeks ago. It was an interesting concept where they were doing basically secondary audio broadcast of a Sportsnet game. You know, they had Jeff Merrick and a couple other people talking about and telling stories and stuff while the play was going on. I wanted to watch it, and it was geo-blocked.
Yeah,
can we get this? Can we get past this? We're on the same friggin' continent. Let's be able to watch the time.
Now you're digging into another whole set of issues, because now you're digging into Canadian TV versus American TV versus. I mean, the fact that we can't get TSN in the United States makes no sense at all. The fact that you can't get Sportsnet in the United States makes no sense at all. I have to rent a sling box from somebody up in Canada to watch those things. You know, so I've got an extra cable bill that I've got to pay just to be able to do my job. But normally, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you can't.
I got my last two things on this. The light bulb went off just now. I think Facebook's doing this to get people back because they lost people.
Oh, I think this was planned a long time ago. But I think the timing of this is
no. The press release just came out. Like I don't know.
But I think but they don't put this takes a while to put together.
Maybe
these kind of things, you know. And I'm surprised. I mean, the press release. These games will be. It is. I mean, maybe it's possible. I mean, it's baseball, so I don't know. I mean, with hockey, I know when they do the streaming things, it would be, you know, but we would get the press release way ahead of time too. So if the press release
spring training, it was known, but spring training, the data mining situation was known too. Like, so I'm saying it could be. Go ahead.
Russ, we'll know if something is up if it's sponsored by the KHL.
Right. And the other thing was,
the real problem with baseball, though, and the last thing I'll say is that, and this is different than every sport, I think, is that the people who watch baseball. There are a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people like you and I, or you know, you, not me, but you, Mike, you guys, but also a lot of the elderly people. A lot of elderly people watch baseball.
No, it's true though.
It's very true. And the more complicated you make it for them, they're just going to really get. And they watch these are people who are retired, and they look forward to every single game. And this is their game. And I know I had a grandmother who died many years ago, but she couldn't get her away from a Phillies game. So I mean. At that point, often it was just listening on the radio, but she wouldn't miss a single thing. So, this is the issue with baseball. It makes it a little more complicated because the
Canadian TV thing. I remember interviewing Bob Swatos a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. He was big in the league. He owned the Sabres for a while. He told me they know exactly who's listening and watching and whatever, because obviously everything bleeds over to the borders both ways. But he said it was hard to get advertisers, but in the 21st century, I would think you could do that pretty easy.
Yeah, but there's also laws on Canadian
TV. Right, well, that's the thing. It's the government's that's the problem.
Yeah, and Canadian TV, because Canada doesn't want to just be all American television, they have certain laws that they have to be X amount of Canadian-based shows and things like that too, which is fine. It makes sense. And otherwise, America would just overrun it because, because of that, we've gotten some really good like SCTV and shows like this that we got from Canada, which we probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Give us the Canadian content, and we'll plug our nose and watch David Suzuki and his
Yeah. No, I know.
It's great. That's what I'll say.
There's some awesome Canadian shows. Great Canadian kid shows.
Travelers is real good. There's some real good ones.
There's also Murdoch Mysteries, which is
our related was out there. Tupi and Binu, like my favorite, still my kid's favorite television show as a kid is a Canadian show. Really funny stuff. So anyway, there you have it. Let's move on to the actual show. Although this was very good too. So if you weren't paying attention, then screw you. Just kidding. This is all good. I've had a week, guys. Sorry, I'm getting there.
All right.
Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018.
Bite me. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen, and the Oilers are losing for a second time to the Wild in the last 24 hours because they're replaying it. Why not?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's a heavily watched game on that replay. And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And it's funny, on this date, in 2013, something very important happened to the Nashville Predators. Do we know what that is?
Oh, yes, I do, because I was sitting right where you're sitting right now, Ak, because we were waiting for that deal, and all of a sudden it came up, Philip Forsberg for Marty Erat, and I still can't believe that deal.
I know, isn't that something? Remember, the trade deadline was late that year because of the lockout. But that
was a crazy last minute. I've got a lot of pressure on me on George McPhee kind of deal.
And so Martin Erat and and Michael Latta, Erat recently seen in the Olympics, right? Wasn't he in the Olympics? Yeah.
Yeah, Latta played for a few years for the Caps. I mean, he did.
He did, and he was always a solid player. But Philip Forsberg turned into a star, so that was this day a while back. But let's start here with before we get there, let's go right into Erik Karlsson and the situation going on there. And also, I wanted to announce something sort of that's kind of interesting. So if you're paying attention, I just wanted in the beginning of the show here, Hockey Buzz, what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks, it's kind of fun, at least what I'm going to be doing for the most part, is I've listened to a lot of people. I've taken a lot of different, I've talked to a lot of you readers and viewers and stuff like that. And you really want us and me particularly to write more about the off season almost right away. And I have to cover the playoffs, and I feel like as a reporter I want to cover the playoffs, but I'm telling you right now that I'm going to be covering more of the off-season stuff. I'm going to be covering the playoffs as well, but I'm going to be covering more of the off-season with many of the teams because half the league is done in a week, and is going to be interested in what's happened. And we aren't that far from the draft. And in terms of if you're looking at this like a trade deadline, we'd be in like the middle of December, heading towards a trade deadline. So we're not that far off. So that means
the draft lottery is going to be right after.
The rumors. So that means rumored charts and things like that. And I'm going to be really focusing on a lot of these off-season moves and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. We'll be talking about on this show as well, of course. And we'll be talking about the playoffs. Of course, the playoffs are always fun and great if your team's in it. But if your team's not in it, it sucks. So we're going to try to be the place you can go if your team's not in it to see more stuff. So that'll be something that I think will be fun. And then after the first week, you get half the teams eliminated again. So then you have 2/3 of the teams in the NHL not playing. So and a lot of people are after the first 2 weeks. Really
I think one thing that that's gonna be different this year than in past years is the Monday after the regular season is going to be Black Monday. There's going to be a lot of coaches fired.
Yeah, we're going to see firings.
Because there was nothing in season, so you're right.
Yeah, if you remember last year, one of my crazy predictions was that no coach would be fired last year, and everybody's, that's never happened. That's not possible. And was one year.
Hey, one of my predictions was the Ottawa Senators were going to finish in dead last, and I was a year off too. So
right, yeah, things could be a year off. So but there you have it. So let's but anyway, that's something just for you guys watching out there or listening or readers to Hockey Buzz. There's going to be, I think, a lot of fun, and it's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to be talking to everybody, and hopefully it might be one of the few places where you can get some stuff in the next few weeks if you're looking for news moving forward. All right, let's go on that note. Erik Karlsson, who we still don't know what's going to happen to, really might have shown a little bit of his hand last night. But there's so many different ways of looking at this. Erik Karlsson last night, for those who don't know, playing what could be his final game in his home arena in Ottawa, picks up the puck at the end of the game, puts it in his belt and heads off the ice. And a lot of people looked at that, what are you doing? Well, he was interviewed after the game by Bruce Garriock, and Garriock, he basically said to Garriock, well, I don't know. I read a lot of social media and Twitter. I don't know really what's happening necessarily, but a lot of you seem to think this is my last game. So in case it is, and that was Karlsson's answer.
I don't want to overinterpret something that could be completely innocent, but
it's not innocent. It's not innocent.
No. I mean, or not innocent, but in the sense that it could be completely meaningless. He could just be picking up the puck and whatever. But at the odd chance, I mean, I think he realizes with all the stuff that has gone on here then more than likely he's going to be traded. I mean, look at the situation with the Senators. The Senators are, you've got Melnick who wants to cut the budget. You've got an uncertain commodity in Carlson in the case of the fact that he's come back from that injury. This was not a good year for him.
Yep.
There's a lot of people who doubt whether he can ever be the Carlson of old, and you're 1 year away from having to pay from him to demand maybe $10 million, $11 million a year. All those things add up to trading him, and that's he may not want to go, but he really doesn't have any control in this situation, other than to say I'm not going to sign with anybody who I get traded to. But I think that
I
think it's. I mean, Russ, go ahead, give your thoughts, and then
I was going to say this. I mean, I as a lifetime collector, I understand collectors, and I've talked to a lot of athletes who collect, and so I think I understand athletes who collect. And I just looked online, and the only picture you could find of Erik Karlsson with a puck is his first goal. So I don't think he's been that guy that has picked up a lot of pucks along the way. Maybe a few, maybe his 100th goal, if he has 100, probably does. Those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, he wanted that puck for a reason. Like, that wasn't just, hey, let me just grab that puck just for prosperity. He did that with a purpose. And the purpose is in case he's not there, and the odds are he's not going to be there. And that's why he did it. And we all understand it. He's going to hide it for now. But at the end of the day, if he's there by the start of next season, I think we'll all be shocked.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to be there. All the circumstantial evidence adds up to them trading him. It's just a question now of how much do they get for him?
Right.
Where does he go? And does he follow through on the thing of I'm not going to sign? I think if he goes to a place that he likes, he will sign. I think that's just basically a little bit of control. The only modicum of control that he has in this situation is that threat. I mean, if he wants to go to Vegas, or he wants to go to some place that, fits where he wants to go in his career, then signing or not signing is the only play. That's
probably not where he's going to get traded to. I don't think he's going to get traded to the place he's going to sign with. I really do feel like he is going to go UFA no matter what. Like, I just have that feeling. He's been angling for that.
Right.
And so,
well, that mitigates his value then, Russ, because
it does, but I mean, it's still Erik Karlsson, and if you think you can win the Stanley Cup, you're going to still give up quite a bit to get him. You will.
Sure. I mean, okay, say Tampa falls short this year. Right. Say that, I mean, I'm sure they would give up a lot of value for him, but there's value of Karlsson for 1 year, and there's value of Karlsson for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna allow that to be executed. I think he's literally just gonna get traded to a team that thinks they can win the Stanley Cup with him, and Ottawa will get back what they can. But if you were trading him to Tampa, you could get something like, I don't know, Paquette and Sergachev and a first. That's probably something you can get. And for Ottawa, that's a help.
I mean, I've been told many times that
we got the Munchkin voice.
Hold on 1 second. All right.
Okay. Back. Yeah. All right. I've been told a couple times now that that this would be a sign and trade for Eriksson. That he will sign. The 8th year is going to be important because of obviously the situation. It'll be a deal that'll be worked out with the other team, obviously, but it'll be officially signed by the Senators.
Right.
And then he'll be traded because that's the only way the Sens get anything for him, legitimate. And but still,
I still think they could get something for him without this. But the sign and trade's going to be hard to do, and nobody's ever done it yet. So we'll have to wait and see on this one.
Right. And we might see 2 instances of it this year. We could see him and Tavares, where. I mean,
and I've heard also, Karlsson from Washington as being a sign and trade possible. So there's another that's also possible. So, yeah, so we could see a couple.
It is a way for those teams to. I mean, does that mean that the Maple Leafs sign James Van Riemsdyk to an 8-year deal and trade him someplace else? That would mean getting something for him. I mean, yeah, it's possible.
But here's the thing: if you do a sign and trade with Karlsson, let's just say to the Capitals. Are the Capitals doing a sign and trade for Karlsson somewhere else? Because he's going to be a UFA this year. Like, there's time running out on him.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, it would
I mean, so like I don't know if you can get all these done that quickly. That's my issue.
Yeah, no, you have a lot. There's a lot.
There's a lot to go through when you do a sign and trade, because you know what it is, Eck, and you could speak to this. Teams are going to be like a little bit leery of another team saying, "Yes, let's do this sign and trade, and it's all going to work out." Like it's.
Oh yeah, no, it's got to be worked out way ahead. It always be worked out ahead of time.
And Russ, I was talking, and this is definitely something I think will affect this summer. Even though I don't think, and maybe it's in advance of the big summer of 2019 when there's so many big named free agents, but we've seen the effect of free agency in baseball, where there was a moratorium, essentially a stare down until just before or during spring training and just before the season, where guys who were out there who were expecting to get massive deals didn't get them, and then at the 11th hour got much less than that was expected. That is something that could affect, and something that could be a tactic of general managers in the NHL, where you expect, John Carlson could expect 8 years or 7 years at $7 million. James Van Riemsdyk could expect the same thing. And if they don't get it, if everybody just says, okay, and you could say this is collusion, but if everybody all of a sudden is starting to tighten up and say, we can't do these deals because 7-year deals are bad for us. Look at the Lucic deal, look at the Louis Eriksson deal, look at the ones that were all made a couple years, Kyle Oposo. All these deals are bad deals now, and maybe the NHL general managers are just going to say, okay, you know what? We're going to hold off, and maybe we can get these guys for 3 or 4 years when they're desperate later in the season or later in the off season.
I do think it's not. I don't think it's going to be simple. I don't think it's going to be an obvious thing. There aren't obvious teams for any of these guys. I mean, the closest thing to obvious for me is Tavares and the Rangers, but beyond that, I don't think there's really an obvious situation. And the Rangers might just say, forget it, we're not going to do a sign and trade because we know he'll sign here, and that's that.
Right. And I don't think the Rangers would do a sign and trade. Gordon's not that kind of guy. There's no way you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as Tavares goes, people bring, okay, it is the 8th year, and that's important to him, but at the same time, you also have the situation of, okay, I can, as a UFA, he can sign anywhere, and he can turn around and and
right. And with the Rangers, there's not another. I mean, there's Lundqvist, but there's not another monstrous contract like say Chicago with Kane and Taves. They could conceivably sign Tavares for 13 and a half and not have negative ramifications.
Right. I mean, the one thing I want to, just to finish off the Eriks thing, the one thing that I thought, and I'm sorry I had to take that call there, but the one thing I thought about was, when I see that, I see a guy who doesn't want to leave Ottawa. Like I see a player who really, I mean, because that's not something you do if you're pissed off at being in Ottawa. If you're pissed, remember, this is the guy who, when he was named captain, allowed, and I wrote to say, allowed people to go on the concourse and bring your Carlson shirt, and you would have a C sewn on it, for free.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, and he likes the area. He's been there a long time. He wants to stay in Ottawa. He knows it's not in his control,
right.
but to me, it's a really good way for him to tell the fans, listen, I am not the one who's wants out of here. I'm sentimental about my time in Ottawa. He wants to stay there, and I think that does nothing but it just enhance the whole Melnyk crap that's going on. It just takes it to another level, because now you've got Carlson making a definite statement, and Carlson's been nothing but classy the whole time with everything that's gone on, and the fans are already protesting and putting up billboards for Melnyk to sell the team. Yeah. So this enhances that way more. And, but if I'm a Sens fan, I'm a little bit happy, because I don't think this is Erik Karlsson's desire to get out.
No, it's not.
It's not. But in the end, unfortunately for them, it's meaningless, because he doesn't control the situation. I mean, look, I don't know if you saw the team photo that was taken a few weeks back, where he was sitting in between Pierre Dorion and Eugene Melnyk, and he had a look on his face of basically like utter contempt. Now,
he's not very good at hiding his emotions, Carlson. No, he definitely wears his emotions on his sleeves, for sure.
Right. So, I mean, where the franchise is, where he is in his contract, where he is in his career in terms of coming back from the injury, these are all factors. And they could very well turn around and say, okay, we'll sign you for $11 million a year for 8 years, and then he's not the same player he was before the Achilles injury or before the ankle injury, and then you're immediately in trouble. I don't think that they're an organization who can eat an $11 million a year mistake, and that's where I think is going to force them to make this deal this summer.
Yeah. Now, switching to Tavares, here's a quote from Henrik Lundqvist this morning, which was sent loud and clear to management, and it basically was, next year has to be about winning and nothing else.
A 1-year rebuild. Thanks, Henrik.
Like, this is what you're going up against now when you have a guy like this that does not want to spend the end years of his career rebuilding. And I don't blame him.
I don't blame him at all. And honestly, the Rangers aren't in a rebuild. I mean,
No.
and this is not a terrible team. This is a team that's had issues this year, and they've had injuries, or they've had players who.
It's a skew, though. That's the one thing. It is.
Oh yeah, no, there's problems, but they got rid of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And by getting rid of a lot of money, they become an incredibly attractive place to play. Everybody wants to play for the Rangers. I've never met a player who didn't love it, who didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world, because you're playing in the greatest city in the world. And I say that as a Philadelphian. I mean, you're sitting there, you're playing in the center of the universe. Like, you really feel like, I mean, New York City, playing in Madison Square Garden, it's incredible. I mean, if you ever get to see a game there, it's an amazing thing.
Well, it is the only building left that has like a lineage. That's the.
I know, it has a lineage. Plus, you step outside and you're like, you see Radio City Music Hall there, and you see like all this stuff.
There.
It's all right there. And this is, you realize you're in, and players, they get that. I mean, they get how incredible that is to play there. Even Canadians who, we would think are, weren't into the glitz or whatever, they get it. So Lundqvist saying that, I mean, I don't expect the Rangers to be rebuilding at all. Like, I expect the Rangers will use their money. It depends how well they use it. Like, if they use it for Tavares, then that's a great thing. If they don't use it for Tavares, then they have to turn around and, use it smartly in a lot of different ways. But they have enough money, and their desire will be there for players to come there. And look at the Metro Division. I mean, it's completely wide open.
It is.
And the Penguins, are they the class? Are the Capitals the class? Who knows? They've got a couple really good teams.
I will say this: the Capitals finally played hard the other night. They finally were going guns a-blazing. And actually last night, and Ovechkin actually got hurt in that game. He still played, but he took a bad hit. But
they played pretty hard against Pittsburgh on and it was Saturday or Sunday on the weekend.
So they are ramping it up.
Yeah, and I have to say the most amusing part of that game was Evgeny Malkin getting pissed off at Kuznetsov. I think Kuznetsov said something about his mother in Russian, because there was something going on, and I think Malkin after the game says, well, we're probably going to play them in the playoffs, so I was just getting riled up for it.
Yeah. I know you guys talked about the Sedins yesterday. I'm sure, but I did, that happened before the show. Yes, it did. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of time. But there's one thing that was kind of interesting to me, and I was trying to find out who it was. Maybe somebody out there can remind it, because I remember reading an article about 2 weeks ago, and it was funny. Yesterday morning, I was calling people because I just really weird, like whether I've been doing this too long or whether my mind's I had this feeling that something was going on with the Sedins, and I honestly had nowhere to come from. But I was just and I read this article a couple weeks ago of a player who came up to them during the game, and said went out of his way, like a Swedish player on the other team that came out. I wish I knew who it was. I'm going to try to find out who it was, but that to me is like. That showed that this has been known for a while among maybe the.
I don't know. I had no clue.
I gotta find it. And then I guess last night it was Luongo, right, coming up to them. Maybe it was Luongo last week, actually, because they didn't play Luongo last night.
Luongo talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, but he actually came. I'll find it. It might have been Luongo
And Lundqvist came out and talked about it this morning too, because the funny thing about Lundqvist is he and Joel, because they're twins.
Yeah.
Met up with the Sedins when the Lundqvists were in junior.
Right.
The Sedins didn't know them; they were the big stars, but they were very nice to him, and they had a big conversation. And it does show how influential they are in the hockey world. Whether there are fans that are always going to hate on them, it doesn't matter. They really do have a long, great relationship with fans, media, and really everybody outside the hockey world. Like it's you don't get guys like this every day. You don't.
No, not at all. So I mean, to me, when I look at it, I think that it always fascinates me what is known when, because that's my job to a degree, right? So I think that the Sedins probably told him this at the trade deadline. They probably knew about this before then, because like I think they did. I mean, I don't know. No one ever admitted to this.
No, all I know is that there was talk over the last couple of weeks that they were still in discussion with the Canucks, but from the previous indicators, it was like what was the role going to be going forward? And I mean, I don't think pay was going to be a big thing, because more than likely, if they were going to be taking a secondary role, playing second, third line, playing second power play, yielding ice time to guys like Besser and Pettersson, if Pettersson came over and played next year, that the pay wouldn't be as much. And maybe they figured, okay, you know what, if we're going to be secondary players, then let's just retire now, and that's fine. I mean, they had an amazing career. And honestly, and we didn't talk about this yesterday, we just reflected on their careers. And Peter, being somebody who's covered the Canucks and who's lived in Vancouver, was giving an interesting perspective on that.
Yeah, he did.
But look at the organization and where they are now, with $14 million in cap space opening up. This is the opportunity that I've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years to rebuild this franchise, and not go out and now you can go out and spend $10-12 million and sign Tavares. I don't know if Tavares wants to go play in Vancouver, but you have this cap space opening up. But you have a good group of young players, and this is the opportunity for Jim Benning to mold this team and have some flexibility and do the right things and make this team a playoff team in the next couple of years. But when you have a lot of cap space, you have that urge to spend it, and sometimes it can be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, totally. No, and I mean, I think that, I mean, they're an exciting team. They have a lot of good.
There's some pieces there that are really good.
Yeah, they have the rookie of the year this year, obviously. I think there's no question about that, right? And they have.
There's Barzal.
I don't know.
Kyle Connor.
Yeah, there's a question, but he's in the running. He'll be one of the 5.
I think he's the winner. But we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But I think that
the injury hurt him. The injury hurt him.
Yeah, it did. But I still think I think that you got to like where they're going, the way they've handled the situation. I mean, they've handled the Sedins well. I mean, there's certain things about Vancouver that players who play there absolutely adore it. There's no question about that, and I think the Sedins, and I know, I know it was really hard for Kessler to leave Vancouver. There's certain players they do really love playing there, and
they love the city, and
love the city. It's a great, and the fans are great, and the fans are really into it. And they're not as hard. They're not as life or death as some of the other Canadian fans. I've heard that mentioned too.
Oh.
Which has its pluses and minuses in different situations. Of course, everyone wants passion. So yeah, this is. I'll see how this plays out, but I think it's interesting. Like I do think that this has been known for a long time, and I give the Sedins some class to the fact that they didn't do like a going away tour.
Yeah, there's 3 games left, and I think only 1 home game, right?
Which I like. And some people are upset about it that they didn't do a going away tour, but I think wasn't it Matt Sedin who did a going away tour? Basically, I thought it was. I'm trying to remember who. I thought he announced.
Oh, it wasn't Matt Sundin. He basically just said "screw you, Toronto," and then went to Vancouver the next year.
No, but when he was going to retire officially, I thought there was. I remember.
I mean, Gretzky did when there was about 15 games left, and I saw one of them. Actually, I saw 2 of them.
Did Nick Lidstrom? Maybe Nick Lidstrom did.
Lidstrom did. I know there's a player who did an entire year. I'm trying to remember what that was.
I don't remember who did the entire year. I remember the Gretzky.
Was it Messier that did that?
No, I don't think so.
I think it was Gretzky.
Gretzky did it with like 15 or 20 games left, and I saw a couple of them, and it was a cool thing that he at least let people go and see him. But at least the Sedins are letting have the 1 home game, so you could see him on the road if you want.
And now that the NHL is the way it is, we know we'll see them at outdoor games. For the alumni teams, we're going to see the Sedins. It used to be you're never going to see him play again. That's now, I never thought I would see Eric Lindros play again as a Flyer. I have a couple times now, so it's like.
The funny thing is, Russ, when we were talking about this yesterday, I went on to like Ticketmaster and looked to see where the games were, and it said that the Edmonton Vancouver game was at Rogers Arena. It's in Edmonton, so it's Rogers.
Right.
They're both Rogers. They're both called Rogers.
Stop naming your buildings Rogers. Everybody.
I gotta tell you this. Now here's a real knock.
Canada's going to be renamed Rogers soon.
Rogers is Scotiabank.
And for the Gretzky, when he was hanging it up, I got tickets in New Jersey with parking. For 2 tickets was less than the price of 1 ticket at MSG, even after Gretzky announced it, right?
Like
but
right across
Philly,
that's just nuts.
But for Philly, I had to get into a suite.
Yeah,
somebody knew the guy at Super Pretzel, and he gave me a seat.
Well,
that was great. I ran in. I gotta tell you this. Hold on. So I went into that building with a Ranger jersey on. I did. And people were booing me and they're yelling stuff at me. And I was just like, whatever. And I just kept going, went right into the suite. It was great, though.
Well, at least you got to see him, Russ. I went to New York City for a Yankee game in Jeter's final year to see him for one last time. And it was a day game after a night game, and they sat him.
That sucks.
Oh man, let's do some quick news before I gotta go. I may have to go like a little like five of here or something like that. But so a couple of interesting stats today. I've been trying to find some stats. I haven't been here for a while, so these have been piling up. But the one stat that I really thought was really interesting was, well, this is not a stat. Sorry, this is a rumor first. That Antti Raanta has been offered an extension. We talked about this. It's over 4 years, at $4 to $4.5 million a year. So we now are in it's a really, now we're gonna have two goalies who've been offered extensions. Well, one signed an extension. Right. In Arizona. Is this
Kemper.
just Kemper? I'm really going to be interested to see what the trade
Islanders model
and the no trade clause is like on these extensions.
No, but if you think about it, this is the Islanders model and the Flyers for a large degree too.
But not that high, not $4.5 million. The Flyers are like $2.5 million with Mason and Neuwirth.
$4 million is the amount that tells you we like you, but we're not sold on you. This is the Robin Lehner amount in Buffalo. Robin Lehner's making 4.1, and everybody wonders, are they going to qualify him? And more than likely they're going to, because if they don't, he's a UFA and they get nothing for him. But Raanta early in the year had problems. Now lately, they've been playing well. He's been playing well, and they think that they've found a guy who they're comfortable with. But I don't know if he's getting 4.5 for 4 years anywhere else, Russ. I don't think he is.
No, even now, if he said, "Hey, I'm going to go back to the Rangers," and knowing that Lundqvist in 4 years won't be there, they wouldn't give him that deal either, I don't think. And that's the thing. This is an interesting thing where I think they decided, hey, Kempner has started in the league now, so has Raanta. We can just keep flip-flopping them if we have to, but it's still cheaper than if we try and go get that number one goalie somewhere, and we'll see what else we could develop in our system in the meantime.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yep, it's doing it again, Eck.
Oh no! All right, hold on, I'll be back.
So yeah, I do like the way Arizona's played at the tail end of the season. No question about it. They have played well. And they had a good April Fool's joke where they said they hired Charles Barkley. That was
I like that. I like that a lot.
Was the WWE being sold to Disney?
Disney? That was the joke.
I am good one. I am suspicious of anything at all that comes out on April 1st.
Well, I said I was covering my last Flyers game, and I got a lot of likes, and then it made me think, do I get a lot of likes because people don't like the coverage I give? Or are they giving the likes because
Thank God, Russ. You're covering the Flyers.
We're so sick and tired of seeing
those. People are so tired of seeing you in the press box when they look at you. No,
we're so sick and tired of seeing those friggin' Swedish fish.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. I didn't do one. This is the first year I haven't done one for a while. As far as these go, my favorite one that I ever did was when all the cities were going to start naming their teams all the same thing. So like the the Philadelphia Eagles would be all the sports teams. I like that one. That was my favorite. Just to save on.
Didn't like that in Philly actually.
Yeah, no. You hear the new thing in Philly is the Supernova. Now that's pretty funny. winning the Super Bowl and Villanova winning. Now we have these.
Good. I like that.
Philadelphia Supernova. I heard that last night. I thought that was
like that.
City of Champions.
Right. Here's another thing. I just lost it, of course. But there's another thing I thought was kind of interesting before I may have to run. But let's talk a little bit about the playoff race for a second before we get into that.
If you have to go, just you can log off. We can finish with the stuff. So, But no, yeah, no. Last night, I mean, there was a couple key games. The big loss, I think, was St. Louis losing to the Caps.
Colorado too, I thought.
Yeah,
Colorado may have lost their season last night.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest one. I think St. Louis, based on my projections, things and all that stuff, St. Louis still has a shot at beating out Colorado, but now it's going to come down to those two for sure, and it's going to be it's going to be a race, and both of those teams are really limping in. I mean, you're talking about two teams that are completely, they're both beat up, they're both banged up beyond recognition right now.
Well, this is not good news for Vegas because right now it's because LA beat Colorado. They're at 96 points.
Yeah.
Anaheim is at 95 points. And right now it's Vegas versus Anaheim in the first round. That's not a matchup that I think Vegas wants.
It actually is. Well, according, at least if you're basing on what their records this year. I'm not saying that I think everybody wants to play Vegas in the West because I think we've all talked about the fact that have they played at their playoff level all year? And
what's going to change it? What's going to change it is if Gibson's out for the playoffs and it's Ryan Miller. They didn't play against Ryan Miller most of the year. Like it's going to change the dynamic of the team.
That's very true.
They had two key injuries. We still don't know, and probably won't know until game one of the playoffs about Gibson and about Cam Fowler. I mean, remember Fowler was hurt at the end of last regular season and didn't play until I think the second round. So I mean that's a big. I mean they have the depth on defense to be able to get past that, but he's their best defenseman, either him or Lindholm. So if you lose him for any bit of time, that's a big thing. And if he's not 100%, that's a big thing.
I actually take this back. Sorry, Mike, completely. Vegas dominated Anaheim this year. That I had a reverse.
Yeah.
I apologize.
But honestly, I throw out the regular season records when it comes to the playoffs because I go back to like when Ottawa played Toronto, and Ottawa beat Toronto every single time during the regular season, and then Toronto handed them their lunch in the playoffs.
The last year I did two predicting things for the playoffs that really, and it was interesting to see how they played out. I'm going to do it again this year because I have my two favorite ways of predicting the playoffs beyond just like us all guessing, which is what we do. Are the going by the matchups, which tend to be right way more than they're wrong. I mean, I've done it the last couple of years. 65 to 70% of the time, the matchup will hold, even when it's like an 8 versus a 1 or a 7 versus a 2, which is what's interesting in the East because of the fact that you have, basically a team like the Lightning has really struggled against the Devils. Like there's certain things that are funny as you play out, but I'm not saying that would happen here. But as far as Vegas is a tough one because you only have 1 year of matchups to go off of. So you only have this year. But they did with possible teams they played. Anaheim they had the best record against. Then comes Colorado. Then comes San Jose. Then comes St. Louis.
Well,
and then LA was the team that they struggled against the most. So LA has the best, it technically was the only team that was 500 against Vegas that they could play.
All right, the Ducks had made an announcement about Fowler out 2 to 6 weeks.
So that's playoffs,
So, yeah, that's the first round.
It's day to day.
Yeah, that could be the first round. That could be into the second round. Now, this is the thing. I mean, look at and Russ and I were talking about the show about this. So Anaheim loses Gibson and Fowler. Colorado loses Varlamov and Eric Johnson. St. Louis loses Scotty Upshaw and Gunnarsson for the year with an ACL tear. All these teams are losing. I mean, St. Louis they're not star players, but Gunnarsson is. I think they're on their second pairing. He's a solid 2A guy. Now you have to fill in with somebody who probably hasn't played most of the season. These are and if you look at that, Colorado or St. Louis is going to play Nashville. I mean, Nashville is going to be licking their chops at that prospect.
They have absolutely owned. I mean, more than any other team, more than any other matchup I've done. If you look at the biggest single dominance between one team and another that could meet in the playoffs is Nashville has owned Colorado. Now it could, and then not too far. I mean, I do this on a ranking from like 0 to 2. So if you have a 0 ranking, you've never lost to the team. If you have a 2 ranking, you've never beaten the team over 3 years, basically weighted towards the years this year. So it's an interesting mathematical thing, Russ, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Russ comes out at 0.2, which is like really crazy. I mean, Colorado comes out at 0.2 against Nashville. Sorry, not Russ. Colorado comes out at 0.2. So 0.2 is like, to give you perspective, I mean, that's just nuts. LA at 1.06 against Nashville. So Nashville's worst team to play would be the Kings.
I think Colorado might have a better chance of winning with Russ and goal than Jonathan Bernier.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, the Blues are the Blues have played Vegas pretty well. So if the Blues could find a way, but I mean, it's not likely they're going to get there, but that would, now they're looking at Nashville, like you say. So it's basically Colorado or St. Louis. And this means a lot more to Colorado to make it than St. Louis. It really does. It means because St. Louis is a team that traded away Paul Stastny, and to me, that's, you trade away him and then you're still go to the playoffs. I know some Blues fans though who are actually really excited because they think that if they get there, Nashville has always been. Remember last year, Nashville St. Louis was a war.
Except Jake Allen's still giving up bad goals.
Carter Hutton's their guy now. I was just told this morning. I told Carter Hutton's going to be their guy. Andy Strickland. Andy Strickland says that Carter Hutton's their guy from this point out. And Carter Hutton's been
color commentary during the TV breaks.
Carter Hutton's not playoff tested. I'm not even sure he's ever played a playoff game.
I doubt he has. I mean, when would he have? Like he would have played. He hasn't played one for Nashville that I can remember.
No.
And just quickly on the East, the only thing that's because New Jersey. I mean, I know that Florida is still mathematically in, but it would take something of a miracle for Florida to come back and beat them.
Yeah.
Right now, it's who doesn't want to play Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's at 96, Columbus and Philly are at 94, and New Jersey's at 93. There's a lot of flexibility there with 3 games left, and I think Columbus. If I'm Columbus, if I could trade back for Anton Forsberg and have him play and lose the last 3 games just so I don't have to play Pittsburgh, I would do that.
Well, if the problem with that, of course, is Pittsburgh. I mean, who does Pittsburgh want to play? That to me,
I don't know, but they have no incentive to win, really.
No,
I think Pittsburgh wants to play Philadelphia.
Well,
probably. I think probably they do.
I will tell you that I don't believe that's true, because
I believe it. They've owned them.
They've owned the Flyers. But that is the one team that, when you look historically in the playoffs, that they have had issues with. Now they're by far the Penguins. And so going back to my thing of 0-2, the Penguins have absolutely dominated over the last 3 years the Florida Panthers, like beyond that 0.22. So that's as close as you can get. Next is 0.67 would be Philadelphia, and then after that you get 0.92 with Washington. But check this out: 1.74 with New Jersey. If New Jersey somehow played the Penguins, that would be like that. New Jersey has owned the Penguins. This is what I always find fascinating about this. Now Columbus, they actually have, when you look at their options, Columbus, who they could play, they're all the matchups they have are not great ones for them. Philadelphia is the best they have at 1.25.
I think Philly and New Jersey are pretty good matchups.
New Jersey, they can't play New Jersey. So in the first round at least. So, but the teams
they actually could. Still, New Jersey's got 3 games.
There is a way, but it probably won't happen.
Right?
How would that happen? Pittsburgh and Philly fall out?
No. Pittsburgh's in second. If New Jersey is only a point behind Columbus, if they finish in third, they're playing Pittsburgh.
Right.
Oh, who are you talking about? New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Oh yeah, no, New Jersey could play Pittsburgh. Yeah, no, right. I'm talking about Columbus. I'm saying the best they have is Philly at 1.25, which is not good for a best team. And then it goes up to Washington's the worst. So Pittsburgh 1.63 for Columbus. That's really bad. That's really favoring the Penguins in a big way.
I think Columbus's most favorable matchup would be Washington. If they finish in the first wild card and they play against the Caps, because the Caps are not the Caps of last year.
Yeah.
They're playing Grubauer more than they're playing Holtby.
That doesn't matter. And that actually favors the Caps, I think, because Grubauer, who knows? Holtby has had playoff issues, right? So, I mean, to me, if you look on this, actually, that's the worst team they could play based on the last 3 years. Columbus has totally been dominated by Washington.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a great matchup out there for Columbus, but I think Columbus would rather. I think if they played the Penguins, the one chance they have is Tortorella gets those guys fired up to the point where they just play life and death hockey every minute of every shift, and that could happen.
Honestly, I think the only chance that the Blue Jackets have against the Penguins is Tristan Jarry in goal.
Yeah.
That
could happen too.
That could happen too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. Now, the Flyers' best matchup, which is really kind of surprising, it's not Columbus, it's not Washington, it's not Pittsburgh, it's not Boston, it is Tampa, which and that's possible. It's 1.06, which is almost an even matchup.
Well, and I mean, it might be, but the thing is, tonight is the determining game in the Atlantic.
Yeah,
Tampa's 2 points behind. Boston's got a game in hand. If Tampa wins, they're tied with Boston, still with the game in hand. But Stamkos is not playing, and John Shannon just reported that he may be sat out for the remainder of the regular season.
Makes sense.
which makes sense. You know, okay. But the thing is, honestly, though, next Thursday when Tampa, or Wednesday or Thursday when Tampa embarks on their first round of the playoffs, it's not going out on a limb to say Steven Stamkos is not going to be 100%. They're a very deep team, but that is a fact. That's going to be a factor.
Yep.
And, you know, if they play Toronto, you know, Stamkos being less than 100% may tip the balance of that series a little bit in the favor of. I don't think the Leafs will be favored. I think Tampa will be favored, but I think it gives the Leafs an opportunity with a diminished Stamkos to have a fighter's chance, a puncher's chance at winning that series.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean you're totally right. Of course, if you go by the matchups, Toronto wants to play Boston, right? I mean Boston, they played Boston much better.
Yeah.
Then Boston has a 1.43 against Toronto, which is really, it's almost a 2.
McAvoy's back tonight.
Yeah, where Tampa's at.
McAvoy's back tonight. Chara was back on Sunday. The injuries, you know, Carlo is probably out for the year.
Yeah, we don't expect to see Carlo again.
Yeah,
Boston wants to play Philly or Florida, so there's that to them. It does benefit them to get to the first place spot a lot more than it benefits Tampa. Yep. Because Tampa, if they don't get the first place spot, they end up with Toronto, which is a 0.93, which is almost an even matchup. Actually favors Toronto a little bit, but not much. And then if beyond, you know, but because basically, you know, Tampa against Florida, they haven't played well against Florida. That's a team they don't want to play. So that there's a lot. I mean, and you know,
I don't have to worry about that one.
But then New Jersey's not that much better. I mean, New Jersey's a 1.0, and Philly are 1.0, which for them, from Tampa's side of things, is almost dead even, but not great considering that there should be a lot better than that. This
playoff is going to be so weird because you're going to have, if St. Louis gets in, it's Carter Hutton, Keith Kincaid, and Philip Grubauer. You know what I'm saying? It's like I mean, that's bizarre, but you're going to go with the hot hand, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So just to tell you how weird this can be, like you talk about, these playoffs can be so strange. I'll end with this because then I got to run. But last year so a few weeks ago, I had the playoffs when things were in a certain position. I kind of run every year to see how it would end up, you know, and it actually played out that the Maple Leafs would play the Wild in the finals, you know. Now I know we laugh about this stuff, but last year, you know, but it was just a couple years ago that, you know, then when LA was in 8th place, it brought them out to win it based on the matchups. Last year against Nashville, with the exception of the first matchup against Chicago, every one of the matchups, you know, favored them. I mean, no one expected them to sweep Chicago, but that, you know, that was an example of how matchups didn't matter then, for sure. But you know, if the Leafs end up in the right spot, I mean, you know, if Tampa gets in first and the Devils are in 8th and Toronto's in 3rd and Boston's in 2nd, that matches up really nicely for them, because, you know, New Jersey could take out Tampa, and then the Leafs have dominated New Jersey. So you end up in a spot. It could be fascinating.
The only way that happens is Tampa winning tonight. If Tampa loses tonight, then Boston is 4 points ahead and it's over with.
Yeah, I mean, and that's for sure, and there's no question about it. And we, like, the Stamkos missing is obviously a big issue, and might have to come into the fact that they don't really care as much, but they should, because Tampa should actually want Boston to play Toronto. That's what they really should want to happen.
I think Tampa is most focused on one thing: as healthy as possible Steven Stamkos to start the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's what they'll say, and that's what you should say, of course. Yep. Whenever you say it, but you know, I think avoiding the Penguins is going to be a fun thing to watch how that plays out. Once all the teams clinch, you know, which could happen tonight. Philly could clinch, I think. New Jersey still has to go.
If Philly wins, and I think there's another point by Columbus or whatever, Florida's done.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. The Florida still could catch New Jersey, couldn't they?
Florida has to win out, and New Jersey has to lose out for them to make it.
Right. Yeah, and that's
lose out in regulation.
Philly would clinch. He's just talking about Philly clinch.
Philly would clinch tonight. If Philly won, they would have clinched tonight. If Florida lost last night, they would have clinched. But yeah, so Philly looks pretty safe, and they all look pretty safe right now. But we'll talk more about that.
Philly is safe
for sure. That's all we have time for today, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.